Well, all right. Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Berlino here in the world famous As It Should Be archives. And, well, you know what? It's time for another discography versus discography. Yeah, it's sort of a variation on the track versus track idea, but I'm putting full albums against one another instead of individual tracks. Yeah, I've decided that this time I would do AC/DC versus Van Halen. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the Bon Scott era AC/DC against David Lee Roth era Van Halen. That's 6 albums per band. And before I get started, I just want to say to anybody who, some people come in and they go, "Why do you do this? What is this? Why would you make this a contest?" Blah, blah, blah. People come in and complain. You know what, people? It's not to be taken seriously. It's just dumb fun. It's just a dumb little party game. You know what I mean? It's not to be taken all that seriously, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm definitively establishing what's the better band and which discography is better. It's just a fun little video. That's all there is to it. And so why don't we get started? Okay. All right. So I'm doing the 6 original Dave era Van Halen albums. I'm leaving out A Different Kind of Truth only because it's the 7th album and there are only 6 Bon Scott era albums. That's the only reason. I actually really love Different Kind of Truth. So, and I'm going to be doing the Australian catalog of AC/DC. Otherwise, if I did the US or the international, then there would only be 5. So there we go. Now let's get started. So first up we have AC/DC's High Voltage, the original Australian High Voltage, against Van Halen's first album, the self-titled Van Halen from 1978. Well, that's pretty easy. I would like to meet the person who would not... How are we going to do this? Who would not choose the first Van Halen album over this version of High Voltage. I mean, come on. I mean, this is one of the greatest debut albums of all time. This is really not at all a fair fight. So, but Van Halen. Okay. Now, one little problem here. I don't have a tally sheet, so I'm probably so I'm gonna hopefully I'll remember. Okay, so coming up next, now. I'm trying to do vinyl to show all the albums for all of these. The one album I don't have a vinyl copy of here is Van Halen 2. So I'm going to have to do a pop-up. But, so next we have Van Halen 2 against TNT. Okay? And, of course, TNT, the US and, well, the international equivalent of TNT is High Voltage. Totally different High Voltage. This High Voltage is basically this album. So TNT versus Van Halen 2. And what do I choose? TNT versus Van Halen 2. Ooh, that's a little tougher. Now we're actually getting into a contest here. There's some contests here. That's tough. Let me think this over for a second. Let me look at the tracks again and kind of, oh, man. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go TNT. That second Van Halen album is a smoker. But just by that much, I'm gonna have to go with TNT. Okay? Alright, so that's one each. Van Halen and AC/DC each got one. Okay, so coming up next, I have Dirty Deeds by AC/DC up against Women and Children First. Man. This is far easier than it should be. Oh, and of course here's the other cover for Dirty Deeds, but the Australian cover. versus Van Halen. Yeah, this is really easy. I know exactly what I'm going to pick. Women and Children First. Yeah. Dirty Deeds is great, but I don't think it's anywhere near as strong of an album as Women and Children First. Yeah. He's not even close. Now, before I move any further, I want to show you something. I have this other copy of Women and Children First. It's a total beater. You know, it's not a very good condition copy that I got in the dollar bin 15 or some odd years ago. And I bought this mainly because it had the poster in it. But not just the poster, because I have the poster in another copy of the album, but what makes this one special is that somebody actually drew a giant pot leaf on it, and of course, let us know in no uncertain terms that Van Halen rules. Okay? Yeah. That right there was worth my buck. Moving forward. All right, so next we have Let There Be Rock. US cover. Let There Be Rock against Fair Warning. Woo! That is tough. Oh, shit. Let There Be Rock or Fair Warning? Oh. Oh, man. Oh. Yeah, Fair Warning, Mean Street, Unchained. Hear About It Later, Push Comes to Shove. Oh, man, Dirty Movies. Oh, but shit, man, AC/DC. But, you know, that has Go Down and Dog Eat Dog, Let There Be Rock, Bad Boy Boogie. Oh, man, Overdose, Whole Lotta Rosie. You know, I'm gonna have to go with AC/DC, but man, just by so little, just by a smidge, but I have to go with AC/DC. Oh, that one hurts. Okay. Up next, Powerage versus Diver Down. Now that is easy. That one is like as easy as the first one, but in the other direction, because I'm going with AC/DC, man. Powerage over Diver Down all day, every day. I'm not a Diver Down hater. I love Diver Down. Now, that said, I am one of those guys that's going to say it has too many covers on it, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. The main thing that bugs me about all the covers on it is that the original material on this is so fucking strong. I mean, Hang 'Em High, Secrets, little guitars. I mean, if the entire album had been originals on the level of the originals that are on here, woo, man, this would be one of the best Van Halen albums. It might be my second favorite if that was the case. So only for that reason do I complain about the covers. Otherwise, I actually like the covers on this album. But yeah, Powerage gets that, no problem. Okay, so the last pair up here, the final albums with the original vocalists of each band, and that brings us to Highway to Hell versus 1984. Also easy. This one is every bit as easy as the last one. Highway to Hell. Highway to Hell. I'm not the biggest 1984 fan. I do like it. I do love it. I mean, you know, there isn't anything on it that I dislike. I just don't feel about that album. I never really did. But Highway to Hell? You kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Highway to Hell. All the way. Every note of this album is stone cold classic. Yes, I know this is a stone cold classic too. Most people love this album a lot more than I do. But Highway to Hell takes this effortlessly. So I'm gonna have a little edit while I figure out what the tally is, okay? All right, AC/DC took this, and that Van Halen got 2, and AC/DC got 4. You know, I guess it stands to reason because I do actually, AC/DC I kind of love more, but man, not by much. I actually love Van Halen more than I even really usually realize. Yeah, I mean, but AC/DC runs just a little deeper for me, and yeah, and they won, and they won the big contest. But also, I have to point out about this, and I didn't point it out at the beginning. For me, the real action, the real point of these videos is the fun of the individual pair-ups, not so much what wins in the end. With track versus track, I think it definitely doesn't prove, you know, which album is better. Yeah, with discography versus discography, I don't know what it proves. It's just all dumb fun, like I said, and thank you for watching. Everybody, now, if you've subscribed, I thank you, but if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. If you do, click the little bell because notifications. And anyway, maybe come back this Thursday because Crystal Durant and Tommy Von Voigt are going to be back, and we are going to be back on our Albums of the Year series. Last week we preempted the Albums of the Year series to bring you the ranking of the Who albums. Well, this week, Albums of the Year is back, and we're going to be discussing our favorite albums of 2004. So get ready for that. All right, I will see you guys then. I've got hairs in my mouth. I've got bloody hairs in my mouth, I have. Bloody hairs! Hairs in my mouth! I have.